to blackness and darkness and tempest, and the sound of trumpet and the voice of words, which voice they that heard entreated that the word should not be spoken to them anymore. What's he talking about? What do you think he's talking about there? Sinai, yeah. Mount Sinai. Pretty obvious. And he's saying, listen, how it was before, how God revealed himself before. This is how God revealed himself. It was terrifying. It was with fire and blackness and darkness and tempest, which, a tempest is like a whirlwind, is like a very tumultuous, terrifying storm, if you will, to be in. And the sound of a trumpet, so some loud noises, and the voice of words, which voice, whenever they heard it, they said, stop. They said, don't speak it anymore. It's too. In verse 20, for they could not endure that which was commanded. And if so much as a beast touch the mountain, it shall be stoned or thrust through with a dart. So there's this obvious separation between man and God, or between God and man, I should say. God is saying, I am distinct. I am separate. And this actually goes, by the way, you get a double threat today with me because I'm teaching and preaching today. So this kind of goes into my sermon even today. There is this separation between man and God, that there was no way they could bridge. God was saying, I am distinct. My essence and my nature are unique. And there is nothing you can do to come in front of me without being blasted, essentially. I mean, that's the concept here that he's trying to portray is that how it was before was this, this channel or this gulf between man and God that could not be bridged. So terrible was the sight that Moses said, I exceedingly fear and quake. Moses was righteous. He was selected by God to speak for God. And yet he was so fearful, but he loved God so much, even though it would kill him, he still wanted to see God. But he shook and he was fearful. And remember, God was like, okay, but you can only see me, see my what do you call it? As I pass by, you can only see the back of me as I pass by, and I'm going to put you in between these rocks to protect you in the cleft of the rock, right? And that was even that little glimpse was enough to turn his hair white, and he was radiating with glory just from seeing that little bit, right? Even though Moses was a sinful man. But then this is what's important, and I'm kind of rushing through here because I feel like, again, this is kind of reiterating a lot of his points in the preceding chapters, and we'll have a discussion here pretty soon. But here's the distinction, though. He's saying, or the bridge. He's saying, that's how it was. And I don't think in our humanity we tend to downplay our transgressions, and we tend to elevate our works of righteousness, right? That's our human nature. Is we tend to downplay our faults and elevate our virtues, right? I mean, I think of job interviews, because I've been doing a lot of them lately. It's like, job interviews are very interesting because you're trying to put your best foot forward and be honest about your accomplishments while simultaneously kind of not downplaying your lack of experience in areas, but you're trying to be like, but I'd be willing to learn. You're trying to put kind of a veneer or a gloss on things. You're trying to polish up your resume. And you're trying to put your best foot forward, right? And I feel like we do that with God a lot of the times. It's like we at least I'm guilty of it. I don't know, maybe you're not. But I'm guilty of that, being like, I know I messed up, but it's like, maybe it's not so bad in this situation or whatever, or you try to caveat things, and maybe not so much with God as it is with other people. You try to, put your best foot forward. But God knows. And there is no hiding your true condition before God. And this is what he's saying. He's saying, you can't even approach me before. But here's the transition. But ye, and he's speaking to his audience, are come unto Mount Zion and unto the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, and to the innumerable company of angels. He's not saying in the future, you will. He's saying, ye are come. Present tense. Right now, you are come. To the general assembly and the church of the firstborn, which are written in heaven, and to God, the judge of all, and to the spirits of just men made perfect. And here's the kicker. And to Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of sprinkling that speaks better things than of Abel. So notice here, he's saying, these are all present tense. He's saying, yeah, you come to Mount Zion, to the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, to the innumerable company of angels. You've come to the general assembly and church of the firstborn, which are written in heaven. You've come to God, the judge of all, and to the spirits of just men made perfect. You've come to Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of sprinkling that speaks better things than that of Abel. So what is this? What is this? What does this mean today for us? There's this Mount Sinai relationship with God, and now there's this new relationship, this new coming to. And we'll talk more about this in my sermon today, because it's even more than just that, more than just coming to, as we'll see. And it kind of blew my mind a little bit, and maybe it won't blow your mind. Maybe you've already researched this and understand it better than I have. But the union of God and man, that is something that God earnestly desires, is union with us through Jesus Christ. And we'll dig into it later, but this is so cool. But what thoughts are being prompted right now? This distinction between Sinai and now Zion. Because I think of them as two different locales, right? So there's Sinai experience, and now we're in a Zion experience, or a Zion. I mix up the two. A Sinai relationship and a Zion relationship. What do you guys? What's kind of that provoking in you? Yeah, Armin. Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Good point. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like that's what that the whole book of Hebrews is about that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're doing.
Yep.
They're making the golden calf. It's just the Old Testament this time.
Mm-hmm.
It's just
Yeah.
the law. It's just the calf.
Yeah, Luke.
I think the end of the chapter especially, but throughout all of Hebrews, it just there's a reinforcement of the fearing God, and I think that me personally, like it's gold. I struggled with that fear of God. For a long time, there was not a fear of God before my eyes, but I think, like Jesus says, do not fear the ones who can destroy the body, but fear the ones who can destroy the body and the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a healthy fear of God is probably one of the best things that you can develop as a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't fear him out of a place of like terror. You fear him out of a place of consequence. And you understand, it helps you understand how holy and righteous he is, and how unholy and unrighteous we are
Yeah.
on a fleshly face.
Yeah. It's a reverential, um, well, it's just a reverential awe of God's attributes and his status. And the fact that I love what you said, Dad, about the the reminder to the Jewish audience that don't be like your forefathers, don't be like your forebears who faltered in the wilderness. Remember, previous chapters we talked about them dying by the wayside, and the implication there kind of being that, I mean, I'm not going to say that this is what happened, but it seems as if the implication there is like, don't even, like, just, they're going to collapse and die along the way. They're not worthy of entering into the land of promise. It's almost like a purging, if you will, of that generation. He's saying, don't be a part of that. And there is an aspect of fear in that he's trying to evoke, a fearful, a reverential awe of God. Is like, you don't get to make the rules. You don't get to determine the rules of engagement with God. God has already done that through Jesus Christ. And these are the new terms. These are the new terms. God is sovereign. He's going to set the terms. And you don't get to put anything else on top of that. Don't put any other kind of obligations or anything else on top of what God has already said. And that see that you refuse not, and this is what he says, see that you refuse not him that speaks. For if they escaped not who refused him that spake on earth, much more shall we escape if we turn away from him that speaks from heaven, whose voice then shooketh the earth. But now he hath promised, saying, yet once more I shake not the earth only, but also heaven. What do you think that means? That's kind of cool. I think that's kind of cool to think about. It's like in the past, God spoke and the earth shook. Now he speaks and heaven and earth shakes. He's talking about this cosmic reality, this finality, totality of his plan, of his redemption plan upon the entire universe, heaven and earth, what is seen and unseen.
I thought this book was to the Jews, and so like it's really hard for me to relate because I wasn't a Jew whose conversion became a Christian. I'm a modern human who's not born Jewish, but I think that's what he's talking about is that he failed in the old covenant, he failed on the mountain, he failed in every single way. I send my son to redeem your failure, not his, and yet they cling to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was profitable. They received honor. That's why they wore the big hats and
Yep.
the fancy robes. That's why they talk about the braided hair and gold jewelry, the best seats in the house. We don't even do that, like not like all the rich people sit up front. Nobody sits up front.
And how today can Christians act that way? You know, we can. It's possible for us to act that way. We're the elect. We're the chosen. We're the royal priesthood. It's like, and we can fall into the same sin of the Israelites, of that chosen status, and get puffed up from it. But we were chosen while we were yet sinners. You know what I mean? It's like we have nothing to boast. We are saved by grace through faith, and that not of ourselves. It is a gift of God, right? Ephesians 2. And so, yeah, that's what he's saying. He's saying that's maybe how we relate to it as Gentiles, you know, in the modern age, as modern people. Yeah, maybe we don't struggle with a lot of the same cultural influences as the Jews of back then did, or maybe they're just different influences.
They were drunk on their birthright.
Right.
Don't have that.
Yeah. Yeah.
One thing modern people, we don't live by faith. We don't live by sight. We live by faith. You know, you have to humble yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Many are called, few are chosen.
Mm-hmm.
I tell myself that every day.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I'm called doesn't mean I'm chosen.
Mm.
I have to hold fast to the end, not fall away.
Yeah, and that's what he's saying here. He's saying, hold fast. He's like, don't forsake the promise. God is promising you something, and if you go back into the old ways, you're forsaking it. Yeah.
I like that. I'm going to steal it. Drunk on their birthright.
Mm-hmm.
Back to Lou's comment about the fear. I thought a lot about this too, like, because I don't want fear to motivate me. I try to figure out what I'm afraid of. And I think for a long time it was being afraid of punishment, but it's changed. My fear has changed. So I think, and Scripture is clear that what we have is a gift. Timothy,
Yeah.
James,
Right.
Paul, and Romans. I mean, it's very clear. But when we think of a gift as humans, we tend to think of something that's given and can't be taken away.
Mm-hmm.
If I give you a gift, you don't expect that I'm going to come later and take it. And I think God's concept of gift is I own everything. This is not a perfect illustration, but I've dealt a lot in my career with leases, right? And so if you write a lease on a property, there's a lot of terms and conditions, and you can be very confident you're going to have the use of that property until you break those terms and conditions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's like God's given me a mansion, my life, that all the things in my life that I love are like this mansion. And he just says, I actually still own all of this. I own your children. I own your wife. I own your home. I own all of this stuff, but I'm going to let you enjoy your life in this life and use it. And I just have some requirements to follow and be faithful to me.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, your alternative is homelessness. That's the only alternative.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think now of my fear, I think of if I left the faith, not only would I be leaving God, but I'd be walking away from everything that I
Everything,
love,
yeah.
everything like that He's given me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually my driving fear more than it is fear of punishment. And there's still a fear of punishment, don't get me wrong. But it's like all these blessings, all these gifts that He's given, they're I don't want to say fragile, but in a way they're fragile. And I think as long as we recognize that, I'm not trying to take a physical approach to it, but if you know what I mean.
I know what you mean.
That my stewardship, my life here, my stewardship of my faith, whatever, can be a fragile thing. And how I interact with God is important.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's to some degree that's what he's saying to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it actually goes on what he says in verse 27, and this word yet once more signifying the removing of those things that are shaken or fragile, right? As of things that are made, that those things which cannot be shaken may remain. Wherefore we receive a kingdom which cannot be moved. Let us have grace, whereby we may serve God acceptably with reverence. There's that godly fear, for our God is a consuming fire. At the end of the day, God is a consuming fire. He's going to purge us of all our iniquities and our sins through the sanctifying work of the Spirit. He's going to purge one way or another. And you can yield yourself over to that, or you can resist it. But the things, and you're just saying this, I think, the things that are shaken and the things that are unmoved. If we place our faith and our hope and reliance, self-reliance, all these things upon physical things, upon our accomplishments, our money, our jobs, our family, our possessions, whatever it may be, if that's where we're putting our identity in, those things are shaken all the time. They're constantly being, the chaos of life happens. You lose health, you lose jobs, you lose wealth, you lose family members, you lose houses, you lose properties. Things like that are always shaken. You lose countries. Countries are constantly being toppled and replaced with new empires or new whatever. If you put your faith in those things, you're going to be woefully disappointed. You're going to suffer loss. But yeah. 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 Very temporary thing. Yeah. Yeah. And that's why he keeps giving us, the writer keeps giving them these illustrations and examples throughout their own history, saying, don't falter at the promise. Hold fast. Because that which is to come, you actually already have. You actually already have these gifts. They're just not, you have not fully realized them yet. Esau already had the inheritance. It was already due to him. It was already due him. But he gave it up. It was already his. That promise was, that inheritance was already his. If it weren't, then he couldn't have given it up. He couldn't have given it to Jacob if it weren't already his. And that is what the writer of Hebrews is saying.
I think part of it is also he's speaking to people who were previously Jewish.
Yeah.
And their original promise was the promised land of Israel, which
Mhm.
is something that is temporal, something that is here on this
Yeah.
earth, that they've repeatedly gained and lost over
Mhm.
and over again,
Oh, yeah.
simply based on what was happening around them and their own actions and so on and so
Mhm.
forth. So it's the difference between what was promised to you as Jews here on this earth versus what is promised to you in the future through Jesus Christ.
Right.
It is so incredibly different
Yeah.
and longer lasting and unshakable, something that you can't lose once you've accepted it
Mhm.
and continue to walk in that path.
Well, he even says, and I think it was that chapter 9, chapter 11. Chapter 11, verse 8. By faith, Abraham, when he was called to go out into the place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whither he went. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heirs of him, the same promise. For he looked for a city which hath foundations, whose builder and maker is God. So Abraham was actually going out, not just looking for that physical land, but he was looking for a place established and founded by God, not made by human hands. He's looking for an eternal promise. And now we have it. Now we have that eternal promise. And like I said, my sermon will get into some of this and what the end is, what the end of our journey is, the ultimate conclusion. And it's actually more than just a mansion. It's actually more than just a mansion in God's or a room in God's mansion. It's incredible how God, as a consuming fire, how he is consuming the very things of us that are unfit to enter into his presence. In this life. In this life, he's doing it. And I think if you're a Christian, or I'll just speak for myself. As a Christian, I can look back, and I'm not even very old yet, and I can look back throughout my life and see the sanctifying work of the Spirit through all the stages of my life. And it's almost always in hindsight. It's not in the moment I don't see it. Very often I don't see it. I just feel the pain. But in the past, I look in my past and I see how God has just purged so much dross out of me. And then I analyze myself honestly, and I see so much more dross that needs to be purged. And I'm like, oh, it's coming. But it's worth it though, because now I'm standing in a place with God where I can look back and I say, thank you. Like, thank you for purging that out of me, because it needed to happen. It needed to happen. Because I was horrible. Like, in my heart of hearts, I was horrible. And that's what you're talking about, Luke, is our honest evaluation of ourselves before God. And if we can be honest in our evaluations, then God is able to work on us and continually renew us. Yeah. You have something? Mm. Yeah, for anybody to come in, just strangers. Yeah. Mm. 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 You know, it's kind of funny. We're entering into the Halloween season, and I've been reading a lot of Christian literature around Halloween, and it's been great because really getting into the origins and stuff, and some of the myths around Halloween are not true about its pagan origins and stuff. They're not true. One of the things that I think we as Christians, but as I've been researching it, forming my own conclusions, and biblical conclusions, I've realized one of the things we as Christians we really need in our lives is what's in the Latin is called memento mori. Do you know what that means? Reminder of death. Yeah. We need reminders of death. That's actually what Halloween was for like 1,000 years plus, was actually Christians being like, you're going to die. You're going to die someday. And there's a long history of Christians before you who have been martyred for the faith. And remember those people. And remember that you're going to die too. How are you going to die? Are you going to die well? Seeking after that eternal kingdom? Holding fast to the end unto death? Or are you going to let go of that promise? And it kind of makes me, one sec, it kind of makes me think of in my own life exactly that. What am I hoarding? What am I hoarding? Because it can actually be things in your heart. It doesn't have to be physical objects. What are you hoarding in your heart? What are you trying to keep from God in your heart? And preserving unto yourself. Oh, this is going to be my thing. And it's going to be gone. It's going to be gone someday. Whether that's your inflated sense of self or whatever the case may be. Everyone suffers from different things. our own mortality in various ways manifest. But anyways, it's just something I've been thinking about. Really, really interesting. But yeah, Dan.
Well, when you think too, in all this conversation, if you think about how God responds to his people, the patriarchal age was actually a shadow of the law.
Mm.
The Old Testament, the law in the Old Testament is a shadow of the New. And today we actually live in the shadow of heaven.
Yeah.
God has progressed his
Progressively
revelation to us
revealed. Yeah.
and been so, the first year he says he desires nobody to perish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think we tend to think of God immediately going to anger when we do something, but I think he actually goes to grief and disappointment.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that in his patience.
Yeah.
He's just so long suffering.
So long
and
suffering.
he keeps it going because he doesn't want anybody to not be with him.
Yeah.
And so if you think now, like we're in the third or fourth level of that evolution and that revelation, think about what we have. We actually have a visual reminder in the creation, the new heaven, the new earth. Like the church is a shadow of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
This creation is a shadow of the new earth.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we're living in like the next step will be it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's giving us all these, and he's like, I'm giving you so much to see of what I'm like and who I am.
Mm-hmm.
Just please, please, please follow me.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's and that's the thing. It's not even how the Jews conceived of it. They conceived of it as like a ladder that they had to climb and work their way up. What God is saying is not that. He's saying, submit, give up, put your burdens down, give up the hoarded possessions. Sell everything you have and give it to the poor, to that rich young ruler. Or, whatever it is that is your own stumbling block, put it down. Pornography, put it down. Pride, put it down. A relationship that is not good, put it behind you. Put them away. They're bringing you into temptation, or they're bringing you into whatever. Flee from temptation. Flee from the devil. It's like he's basically saying submit. And that is actually, I think, whenever I converse with some people, fellow Christians even, about the concept of obedience, sometimes people still struggle with that. They still struggle with the concept of obedience. It's like, but isn't that works? Isn't that like earning your salvation? It's like, no, it's not. It's actually a yielding to God's will. It's a submission, a surrender. Obedience is actually an act of surrender to God's will. It's not adding on to God's will. That's legalism. Legalism is adding to God's will. Obedience is submitting to God's will. It's just giving up. Finally putting down your rebellious sword in opposition to the rightful king and submitting to his rightful rule. That's what it is. And that's actually what baptism represents. You're not doing anything. You're passive. Okay? And then somebody else baptizes you. You didn't do anything righteous. You are submitting, you're yielding, you're surrendering your life to Christ. You're saying, my life, yours. Boom. That's what it means. I'm dead now. And now I'm alive because of what Christ has done whenever you come up. And it's as simple as that. And that's why, as we conclude this chapter, thank you for all your all the conversation. And hopefully it's been edifying. But that's why whenever we actually look forward to that future kingdom, it's here, but not yet. Right now, like Dad said, you can experience glory. Do you know that? You can experience glory right here in this life. Scriptures actually teach that. Because you are a partaker right now in the divine nature because of what Christ has done. Now, is it the ultimate glorification of the resurrected body? No, we're still mortal beings. We're still going to struggle. Not saying that. We're not perfect yet in that sense. But we have been perfected by what Christ has done. And if we live in accordance with that, sky's the limit. Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew, these many points that are made are all valid, but it leads me to the
Mm. Yeah.
God
Yeah.
guide me, and this covers a multitude. Such a valid thing, and do it daily.
Mm.
You know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Good reminder. Also reminds me of that reel I showed you yesterday, where this guy was like, is this guy? I guess he's kind of like a charismatic preacher or something. I don't know, but the headline above the reel was uh, me whenever I'm praying to God, and it's like, I'm failing. It's like give me wealth, give me this, give me that, blah 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 blah, and it's like kill my enemies, kill them with fire, kill them with fire, and it's like oh gosh, yes. How often do our prayers reflect what we want, what we desire, what instead of that submission, like Gail just said, of Lord, you be the Lord, you determine what's right for me, not me asking all the time for what's right for me, thinking I know what's right for me, and yeah, that's hard. That's like one of the hardest things, at least for me, is just, okay, you make the choices here. It's like, yeah, I have choices to make, but make sure that they're in accordance with your will. So, yeah. 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 Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. You would always conclude. Yeah. 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 Yeah, it would always those are, and that's and I'm not saying that we there isn't a role or a time or place for imprecatory prayers. There are, and there is, but we always conclude those prayers with, "But you are sovereign. You are Lord of lords. You are Lord of the heavens. You determine these things, and I trust in you." And that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Thank you for all your comments. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I never use this. I always forget.
Yeah, I'll put it up here.
I guess I'll just keep this on. So I'm